I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. A federal judge in Washington, D.C. just issued an order regarding Donald Trump's former senior lawyer who spread election disinformation during the 2020 election, who is now missing. We previously reported here on the MeidasTouch Network about this vanishing lawyer. Her name is Jenna Ellis. Of course, Jenna Ellis was side by side with Rudy Giuliani spreading election lies in 2020, holding those absurd hearings in the hotel conference rooms where constant election disinformation was injected. Jenna Ellis very recently was publicly censured by the Colorado State Bar, which took action against her legal license based on her repeated lies and her stipulating to her lying. But the fact that Jenna Ellis has vanished, we learned about that in a federal filing in the defamation case brought by Georgia election workers Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss against Rudy Giuliani. They filed this lawsuit over a year ago. The case has been proceeding through discovery, and there is a deadline where fact discovery, where depositions and interrogatories and subpoenas come to their conclusion, and then you move into expert discovery phase, and then you have the actual trial. But Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss's lawyers, the plaintiff's lawyers in this defamation case against Rudy Giuliani, made this filing pointing out to Judge Beryl Howell that Rudy Giuliani's sidekick, who Rudy Giuliani wrote has relevant information in this case, Jenna Ellis, has disappeared, and that they repeatedly tried to communicate with her through her prior lawyers or people purporting to be her lawyers. They thought that they were having productive communications, but then Jenna Ellis's lawyers all of a sudden started ghosting the lawyers for Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman. They had no clue what was going on, and then they learned that Jenna Ellis, who was once living in Colorado, may have moved to Florida where she could be living, perhaps in her mother's basement. But they hired a private investigator to try to track down Jenna Ellis wherever she is in the United States or the world, and they can't find her, and they need to serve her with a subpoena via personal service. The May deadline is approaching, the late May deadline to serve the subpoena. So they filed this motion earlier in the week to the federal judge in Washington, D.C., Judge Beryl Howell, informing her of all of these situations and the fact that Jenna Ellis has essentially vanished and she is in hiding somewhere. And they requested of the judge that they be able to serve her by alternative means with a subpoena to show up for a deposition and to produce documents and other relevant information in the case. And these other means include email service, just kind of dropping the subpoena at the last known residence, direct messaging Jenna Ellis with the copy of the subpoena on her Facebook and Instagram and social media accounts. And the judge just issued an order allowing the plaintiff's lawyers to do just that and extending the deadline after the normal fact discovery cutoff so that Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman's lawyers can take the deposition of Jenna Ellis. So if Jenna Ellis thought that she was going to hide and then try to force the plaintiff's lawyers to miss a deadline and then they wouldn't be able to take her deposition, her plan has backfired, like all of the MAGA plans that backfire. And what do we say that MAGA stands for here? Make attorneys get attorneys. And the judge said, no, you could depose her after the fact discovery deadline, serve her by these alternative means, email, direct message via social media platforms. What's not stated in this order that I'm about to read for you in part is the fact that that will be deemed to be effective service. So if Jenna Ellis then doesn't show up for her deposition and doesn't produce documents, she can then be held in contempt of the court and face very serious sanctions. But before reading this order, let me just tell you this, like, how cowardly is this Jenna Ellis? I mean, she would go on all these right-wing MAGA networks and she would spread all of these lies and attack our democracy so despicably. I mean, this is someone who has a law license, who's abused her law license in such a flagrant and despicable way. By the way, she's blocked me on Twitter, so I always knew that she was cowardly just simply because of the fact that I criticized her.
When running a business, your employees can create all kinds of interesting situations, like getting complaints because someone on the team always smells horrible. Ben, you better talk to Bambi. Somebody isn't showing up when they're supposed to? Talk to Bambi. An employee reports a serious issue like harassment and you're not sure if you have a documented policy? Talk to Bambi. See, with Bambi, you get access to your own dedicated HR manager, starting at just $90 a month. They're available by phone, email, and real-time chat, so onboarding and terminations, those run smoothly. Team members reach peak performance, and your business stays compliant with the changing HR regulations. And with Bambi HR's autopilot, you'll automate important HR practices like setting policies, training, and feedback. Bambi's dedicated HR managers, they're a US-based person dedicated to your business, giving you access to the HR expertise and personal touch that you need, which allows you to be freed up and focus more on what you love. HR managers can easily cost $80,000 a year, but Bambi starts at just $90 per month. Schedule your free conversation today to see how much Bambi can take off your plate. Go to Bambi.com right now and type in MeidasTouch under podcast when you sign up. It will really help the show. Spelled BAMBEE.com, Bambi.com, type in MeidasTouch. Thank you.
But let me read for you right now some of the key portions of this minute order. Here's what it says. Granting plaintiffs' unopposed motion for order permitting the plaintiff, Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman, to serve a Rule 45 subpoena on third party Jenna Ellis via alternative service and amending the schedule order to permit plaintiffs to take 3 depositions after the close of fact discovery. The order goes on to say, while Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 45B1, that's the rule that deals with subpoenaing third parties, and it says, while that rule contemplates that third-party witnesses are to be personally served, and then it cites a case that stands for the proposition, it says there are instances where service can be effectuated by other ways, and specifically like the case at hand where a person appears to be evading service. And then it says here, there are these factors where you can serve someone by these alternative means are fully met. First, Jenna Ellis is likely aware of this lawsuit, given that she was added to Rudy Giuliani, the defendant's initial disclosures. Plaintiffs have attempted to serve her 3 times at an address where she is believed to have recently resided and where her mother currently resides, including one attempt in which a woman in the house, when the process server attempted service but refused to come to the door, and they have contacted lawyers known to have represented Ellis in another matter and who indicated that they were discussing plaintiff's request with Ellis, and plaintiffs have offered 6 other forms of service that will give actual notice of this action to Ellis. Then they go over the 6 other forms, like emailing a copy of this order to Ellis, sending a copy of the order to her last known Colorado address, emailing a copy to the previous lawyers who claimed to represent her, but then ghosted them, sending a copy via social media platforms, and generally reaching out to Jenna Ellis through all of those other means. And then they extended the fact discovery for the depositions of Jenna Ellis, as well as for Ellis Giuliani Partners LLC and Giuliani Communications LLC. So those 3 parties also can now be deposed via these third-party subpoenas after the fact discovery deadline. Of course, we previously reported here on the MeidasTouch Network that Jenna Ellis, and we talked about it earlier in this video, that Jenna Ellis was at that hearing with Rudy Giuliani where she contracted COVID via fart. Rudy Giuliani farted on her in the public hearing. Just to remind you of what took place, here, play this clip.
Point of order.
The answer that I gave you is they didn't bother to interview a single witness. Just like you, they don't want to know the truth. Well, you probably know the truth.
So in addition to being farted on by Rudy Giuliani in that completely disgraceful hearing and then contracting COVID, as I mentioned, she was publicly censured by the State Bar of Colorado for her repeated lies. She stipulated to those lies, then claimed that she didn't do that, even though she did do it. But then because she has demonstrated that she hasn't criticized Ron DeSantis yet. And because she hasn't criticized Ron DeSantis yet, MAGA absolutely hates her now. And here's just an example where someone goes, "We will never forget. Return the favor. Jenna Ellis, you've now made Trump and MAGA your enemy." And it's because Jenna Ellis just said that she wasn't going to be all that critical of Ron DeSantis. So what do we always say MAGA stands for here? Make attorneys, get attorneys. Jenna Ellis, so cowardly right now, she's in hiding somewhere, perhaps in her mother's basement, like this court order suggests, as a process server's trying to knock on her mom's home, and her mom saying that Jenna Ellis isn't there, but she's like hiding in the basement, and thought that that's a way that she wouldn't get deposed. And like, actions have consequences here. And it is so important that we have a robust law and order system of our justice, and that we continue to uphold the law, like is being done here by Judge Beryl Howell and by Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss's lawyers in their defamation case against Rudy Giuliani. Thanks for watching this video. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 1.5 million subscribers thanks to your incredible support. It's free to subscribe to this YouTube channel, so just hit subscribe. Check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch, and wherever you get audio podcasts, subscribe to the MeidasTouch podcast, subscribe to the MeidasTouch Instagram account, and hit subscribe on this YouTube channel. It is free. Have a great day.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.